This is Support is Sexy, episode 444, and we're continuing our series on building your team. Today, let's talk about onboarding your team. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And today we are continuing our series, our week-long series on building your team. And today I want to chat a little bit about onboarding. Now, again, as I've said in other episodes, this is my process for the different things that I've shared, including onboarding. There are many other ways to do it. Depending on your business, you might need some other things, but these are things I'm just going to mention, especially if you're just starting out. So if this is the early stages you're building your team, or maybe you have a team, but there are some other things that you can put in place. So take these as all suggestions, right? There's no one right way, I believe, for doing this. If you're in a corporate setting, you might have, or have a bigger company, I should say, you might have a more elaborate process. So again, whatever works for you. Now, that said, let's go through a few steps that I think you should include or could include for onboarding your team. The first thing is having that job description. So we mentioned that in the last episode, the importance of creating a job description because it outlines your expectations, lets the other person or the person you're hiring know the expectations, and it helps you be clear on what you really hope to get from this position. So have that job description to start so you can share that with the person that you're bringing on board. Next, now this depends on how you're hiring this person. So if this is someone that you're going to use long term, so not from a company like Fiverr or some of the other places that we mentioned as resources in the last episode, if this is something that you're hiring essentially as a contractor, someone who's going to work with you over a long period of time, you might consider having an independent contractor agreement for long-term services. This is something that I got a template from my attorney, made it into my own, and then sent it to the people that I work with. See if this is something that you could use. Talk to an attorney, your attorney, a trusted source, to find out if it's something that you need. And what a contract does, it talks about the position, sort of like the job description, although it might not go into all of that detail, but it certainly outlines the position. It has the person's name, of course, their mailing address, but then it also tells how and when they'll get paid, how you'll handle agreements. I have things like confidentiality in my contract, so information I want to make sure they know is important not to share about clients and other things that we do in the business. So there has information like that in an agreement that won't be in a job description. So this really outlines when you're working with this individual, how you'll work with them, when they'll get paid, again, other ways to settle agreements or handle information, all the important things like that. It also can include a non-compete clause, so saying that once they work with your business, you might not want them to go work for another business exactly like yours right after that. So there are a lot of things you can include in an independent contractor agreement. Again, I suggest speaking to an attorney about it. You can also look up online just to see examples of them. So I wouldn't say go and just print something from online because you want to make sure the legal language is up to par, that you're sending something very professional to the people that you work with, and that's representative of you and your company. But definitely consider an independent contractor agreement. Another thing to think about is whether or not you'll need a W-9 form for the people you work with. Now, if you're hiring a company to work with you, they're more like a vendor, so you won't necessarily need a W-9 because they're a company. But again, if you're working with individuals and bringing individuals on board, paying them a certain amount of money over time, you may need a W-9. You likely will need a W-9. Now, I'm no accountant and I don't play one on podcasts, just like I'm no attorney and I don't play one on podcasts. So this is another place that you want to tap into, a professional who does this for a living. Talk to an accountant, tell them what you're doing, ask them if you need this form, and you can download. And this is, let me say, this is if you're in the United States. So this might not be the same if you're listening in other countries. And shout out to you for listening from other countries. I appreciate you being here, but find out what the rules are for you with working with an individual, whatever country you're in, what kind of tax information or anything like that you may need, because you want to get that stuff, I believe, in the early part of the process, right from the beginning. So you have the paperwork, you're not chasing it down during tax time. If you are in the United States, you can download the W-9, a blank form from irs.gov, so the Internal Revenue website. Again, I don't suggest just getting it off the internet, although there probably are a lot of blank forms out there. Go to the source, irs.gov, and download a blank W-9 form that you can send to individuals who are working with you. The next thing that you need, now that we got a little bit of the legal things out of the way, the next thing I think you should do is outline clear instructions. Outline what you need this person to do. Now, if the person is a specialist, so say you're hiring an editor, you're not going to outline how they do it because they have their own tools, they have their own expertise. You might not even know how that all works. But you still can outline your overall goal. So this is what I need. These are the deliverables. This is the timeline. Maybe you have folders or things set up of how you're going to move content back and forth between the two of you. I like to have all of that written out so you both understand how the process is supposed to work. You don't want to have your things all over the place, especially once you start working with more than one contractor, company, etc. You want to know what the process is for working with that person and outline it specifically in instructions. So if it's something like that with a specialist, you want to give the details of how you're going to communicate and where documents or things you need to share will be stored. If it's with an individual, give detailed steps of how you see things working, knowing that down the line, they might find something that works better another way. But at least say it's something that you've been doing for a while. So for me, say booking podcast guests, I have a process for how I did that. But now the person I've hired can go in, use that process, but then there might be other things for her that work better another way. If it works better and it works for the business, I'm fine with that. But at least that has been outlined as expectations to give her a guide to start, because you want them to be able to jump in and not have to figure out everything. Some things they'll figure out, some things will come up and you can solve them together. But you want to be able to say, these are the step-by-step instructions for how whatever this process is works. What I always include in my instructions too, in addition to the steps, of course, screenshots. So if it's something where you're moving a file from one place to another, or I'm talking about, and on this site, you'll see the such and such folder, I just do a quick screenshot and include that within the instructions. You can insert an image within your instructions so people can see what you're talking about. It's not all just a bunch of words. And it also is good to just break up all that information with a few pictures. So go ahead and screenshot things if you're talking about certain things on a website or someplace else that they need to go to find something. Do a quick screenshot. That's really helpful. In those instructions as well, I also include links to any Google documents or other resources that they may need. If that's other websites or other information, if that's PDFs, and again, if that's Google Docs that we're going to share, spreadsheets, documents, letters, templates, anything like that, all of those links are included in that one instructions document so they know that that's the resource they can go to if they forget a link or anything like that. Include all of that in there just to show these are other things that you need. Now, speaking of Google Docs, that is my preferred collaboration tool, if you will. I use Dropbox also with some other people like editors, but I prefer Google Docs just because I love to be able to update and see the updates in real time. So this way I'm not just emailing instructions in an email. I would put my instructions in a Google Doc and send them to the person, maybe copy them in an email too, but I like having them actually in a Google Doc so the person can see it all there. Then if I have to make any updates to anything, if I forgot something, if I want to add an image, I can do that and know that they'll see it in real time when they go in there. You can also see, of course, when someone is viewing the document, you can control access and those kinds of things. So I prefer Google Docs for spreadsheets and all of that, but you find what works best for you, what is easiest for you to share information. So then after you've delivered your job description to the person you're working with, an independent contractor agreement if that's necessary, a W-9 or other tax forms if those are necessary, clear instructions of how it's all supposed to work. You're telling them when the start date is, so that's also in that contract, start date, when they'll get paid, how often they'll get paid, all of that great stuff. You have all your information in Google Docs that you're going to share. You've given them access and everything to folders, told them passwords or anything that they need like that. Then I think the last step, this is up to you, but this is what I do. Introduce this person to your team or to your clients. So if this is someone who's going to interact with clients on a regular basis, go ahead and introduce them. Once you feel comfortable, hey, this is so-and-so. She or he is going to be the person that interacts with you about this particular topic. I always let my clients know ahead of time, so this way they're not surprised when they get an email from this random person saying, hey, I'm handling your account, or hey, I'm doing this and that for you. Introduce them first. Say, hey, you might get an email from so-and-so. This is her email address. She's going to help with X. And you, of course, let them know that if they have any questions, they can email you directly so the client can get back to you if they do have questions about this. But again, let them know. Introduce the person. It makes the person who's coming on board feel more comfortable reaching out to clients. It lets your clients feel more comfortable knowing this new person is involved in the process. Also, introduce them to your team. So if this person is going to collaborate with other team members, don't have them come in, start working, reaching out to the team. Nobody knows who they are. Everybody's confused. If they're not working with other teammates, then you don't have to worry about that. But I always think it's good to again, you as a leader, you're bringing this person in. You're saying this is what this person does. Introduce them, connect them. You two are going to be working together on X. Just want to make sure you know each other, you have each other's emails, etc. Introduce everyone so everyone knows who's doing what, if they have to collaborate or if they're going to interact. So this way, nobody's blindsided by this new wonderful person that you brought on board. And speaking of collaboration, I know I mentioned Google Docs, but another thing that people use often with much success, I haven't used any of these. I've used them within other companies. I haven't used them within my own. But I think as my team continues to grow and as people start to collaborate with each other, as I brought in, as I just mentioned to you, I will probably adopt one of these tools into the process. So I mentioned Google Docs for sharing information, but if you want something or need something that's sort of a day-to-day management of projects and assignments and keep it all in one place, these are a few tools that I've heard about. Again, I don't use all of them in my business. I've used them in other companies, and then I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say that they love them. Trello is one that's a managed project management tool. Asana is another one. Basecamp, I've used at several companies. It's great for collaboration. Also, Slack is one that's good for communications. I don't love Slack as much for collaborations because it sort of just has this long feed and information gets lost, but I've used it at several companies. It's very good for exchanging information and not having to worry about having it all drowning in your email. So Slack is another one that you can use for collaboration. I think that's free up to a certain point. Don't quote me on that. But again, if you're looking for what are the tools I can use to easily communicate with my team, these are some that you can keep in mind. And I'll make sure I put links to these in the show notes if you want to go there. They're not affiliate links, just suggestions. So I wanted to mention those too if you're thinking about how can I easily manage all this, especially again, once you get a few people going. So this is if you're starting out, or again, if your business is up and running, there might be some opportunity for you to even get better organized. You, or maybe you brought on a project manager and she can take that on. Still, these are some tools that you may want to use within your organization. All right, so that's sort of a quick overview. I know, again, a lot more can go into onboarding, but if you're getting started, you want to get some things in place, you want to bring someone on board, you want to do it professionally so that you feel good and they feel good. Those are just a few of the things that I think you can start off with having in place so that you can be your best, your team can be your best, you can set yourself up for success and win. Be able to do the things that you're doing the best of your ability. That's all you can do, right? So you want to set yourself up for success. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about turning things over to your team. I spoke about this a little bit a few weeks ago, this journey that I had to go through of learning how to let go, right? Let go of the reins and let my team take over. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in our next episode. But until then, I'm so excited that you're building your team or you're thinking about your team. I'm just excited that you're here listening to the podcast, really. I appreciate you. As I always say, it wouldn't be the same without you. And until we chat again, always remember, you deserve support. and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.